All right. By the beard of the cosmic armor, chill the f*** out. I get it. You are upset that I said Darkseid is the one who created Perpetua and that Perpetua wasn't really real. I understand all the Perpetua scalar nutcases want me deader and deader each time I talk about this. But that's just too bad, and you gonna have to suck it up, Buttercup, because I'm about to show you the ultimate truth of the entire DC Comics metal series and onward to the end of death metal. So look, here's the gist of it. The real quick version, okay? Perpetua wasn't technically real, and neither were the hands, the judges of the source, the chronicler, or the source itself. Why?
But why?
Because this guy here used a device that was specifically made to rewrite history in his own empty area of the multiverse and then leech it for power, sucking it dry like nobody's business.
I'm stuck!
Okay, good. Now that you understand it, we can end the video. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, you're still here. I see. Okay. Well, you want more proof and evidence, I see. Oh, okay. Okay, little Timmy. Take a seat and let Grandpa Comics Curator explain the story of a very, very bad man named Darkseid.
Evil!
You see, long ago in the mystical lands of DC Comics, there was a real son of a bitch named Darkseid. He was a new god, and his ambitions were only to subjugate and enslave everyone and everything that exists. He failed a lot through DC history. In fact, nobody failed more than him. Bro even got bodied by some stairs once. I'm not even kidding. Anyway, eons and lots of canons of DC Comics pass, and Darkseid comes up with a plan way back in Countdown to Final Crisis, circa the year of our Lord, 2007. He says he has plans to do some bad work, even beyond all the known realities. Not much happens until just before the time of the 2015 Metal series.
2,000 years later.
We learn of a terror and a plague that can be unleashed upon the multiverse if the source wall were breached, and the 7 deadly forces were opened, allowing someone named Perpetua to be released from her prison.
I told you that bitch crazy!
While Justice League 2018 is being released, another series named Justice League Odyssey is also being released, and it really explains quite a lot of what this video is all about. Darkseid starts doing some whacked out stuff, and his plans are finally being enacted. He proclaims Cyborg is the transmuter, the code, and Starfire the spark, the fire of creation, according to the myth that I wrote. While this is ongoing right at this time in 2018, another series is released called The Unexpected, where we learn more about the fires of creation and destruction, both concepts and powers given to 2 guys named Alden and Neon. These creation and destruction fires are from the World Forge. Keep that in mind just for a minute. From here, we learn more about the Ghost Sector, and that it was intended to be detached from reality and be safe no matter what happens to the rest of the multiverse. And Darkseid says, here, I am whole again. Here, I may wait out any number of eternities and avoid the impending cataclysm. But what cataclysm? Well, dear viewer, stick with me. You'll understand all of this by the end of the video. Darkseid then says he has been playing this since his early years. He knew doom was inevitable. The source wall would fall one day, but he would not. He would retain control even when reduced to infancy by his enemies. He would endure and grow again. Hop, skip, and a jump back to Justice League Annual number 1, also in 2018. Eventually, Perpetua is released, and creation begins to shake, except for Darkseid's Ghost Sector, which conveniently had a barrier set up around it that was one, if not the only place unaffected by the ripples made by the source wall's destruction. My bro here is the only one laughing, stating that his plans can now begin, looking past the funny grin on his face and how happy he is to start his plan, the lightning and energy in the background usually signifying some dastardly villain stuff is going on here. Comic tropes are a real bitch sometimes, but some people don't have the ability to understand social cues like this, and they are usually the ones who argue against me on this topic. Another hop to Justice League Odyssey 24, where Darkseid gives more exposition on what he was attempting lately. He says, after freshly capturing a new slave, that they are meant to serve him now, to help him set and activate the revision mechanism, and recompose a universe history according to his instructions. And right now, I can feel all the Perpetuaites sharpening their katanas and wishing infinite deaths upon me. But you see, it was always Darkseid's plan to revise history to his own liking with technology that unmakes the current history and revises it in his own preferred manner. After all, Darkseid here claims he is the Lord of Time. The heroes begin to unravel his plan and confirm that he is going to use a device to reboot the entire history of the multiverse. But you see, just before everything went down back in Odyssey, Orion speaks of what will be unleashed if the source wall breaks, and when it happens, he mentions that the new gods are unforming from whatever they originally were, and that he suspects Darkseid is behind the entire event, perhaps even the engineer of it. Darkseid has a box, a piece of tech that he can weaponize the revision of history with, and as we learned, Darkseid has already set this in motion and activated it. We move onward through the events of the Metal series and into the very end of Death Metal, where Perpetua is defeated by the Darkest Knight, who then ultimately has to fight Wonder Woman in the big final battle. The Darkest Knight is just too powerful for Diana to handle, so she needs some help, and our favorite superhero, none other than Darkseid, steps up to save everyone from permanent death at the hands of the evolved Batman who laughs. He offers Wonder Woman a bath in the World Forge, allowing her to use some of its power to fight against the Darkest Knight. This is significant for two reasons. The first, that the fires of creation and destruction were implemented by Darkseid in that previous scan that I referenced earlier from Justice League Odyssey. Next, that the Forge was off limits to Perpetua and the Darkest Knight this entire time. During this entire series, both of these characters were desperate for power sources to fuel themselves, and ultimately, Perpetua was previously gifted access to crisis energy, when the Batman Who Laughs let her use the Dark Multiverse to rerun and remake crisis events to draw power from. Sadly, even this power wasn't enough. Later, when she herself had to fight the Darkest Knight, she lost. While all this is going on, the Batman Who Laughs attempts to seize his own powers throughout the series, even trying to tap a Dark Multiverse Dr. Manhattan, Bruce Wayne variant for access to something close to Manhattan's original power set. All the while, the Forge of Worlds was off limits to both of them. Neither able to tap its resources. Nobody was able to do so until Darkseid instructs Diana to dip into that forge and take some of its power for her own. She takes a quick bath and exits the forge with newfound power, and does battle against the Darkest Knight, and she wins, suffice to say, and all seems well as the hands of the Source emerge from their home to reset all the damage to the multiverse. At the end of Death Metal 7, it's revealed that everyone is accounted for in the reset except one guy, Darkseid. We then don't see anything major from him until the release of Incarnate, where Darkseid is not just back, but he has all of his powers and ultimate true form restored. We don't know how or why, he's just there. And interestingly, he is running amok in the greater Omniverse, which is essentially the Hands and the Chroniclers and the Judge's living room. So the Hands reset the multiverse and talk about a future threat which we assumed was the Great Darkness, but for whatever reason, they are just fine with Darkseid killing the Quintessence in their backyard and running free around the House of the Judges and the Source and the Hands? You see, little Timmy, Darkseid's plan was to remake history in his own preferred way with a new historical revision, somewhere far away from the other areas of the multiverse where none of the other worlds, not part of the major Local 52 area, would be able to see what's going on or at all be affected by it. Upon the Hands resetting the multiverse, Darkseid was free to invoke the final step in his plan, which was to absorb and sift all the power of that multiverse history revision and attempt to get back his true form power, and he succeeds. The Hands, the Source, the Judges of the Source, the Chronicler, and Perpetua were written by Darkseid's adapter tech that revises history and were part of a new origin story penned by none other than Darkseid himself. While everyone was horrified at the idea of Perpetua being unleashed and all the other new gods dying near instantly, Darkseid was not only happy about it, but smiling and insisting his plan was finally moving forward. After all, we did get an interview with Morrison stating that Barbados is the hyperadapter, but really bad logic scalers see this in reverse. Like, Barbados was not the avatar of the adapter and pawn written by Darkseid, but the total reverse, that Barbados' emanations became the Darkseid history revising technology, which makes absolutely no sense. It simply isn't correct. All of this was a bubble verse that was contained by Darkseid's revision. The local 52 and all of the prominent forces of being were revised to a weaker than normally power set, so that none of them can actually really affect Darkseid's plan while he drains them all of power. One thing the adapter cannot do is gift power. It can, though, gift a revision of history, and with infinite patience, Darkseid can bid his time and wait for the buildup of energy, which he would then steal for himself. Darkseid used this adapter to take the local 52 and prominent god figures and place them in a localized bubble away from the other areas of bleed space in the Orrery of Worlds, and then leached his own new history for power, all that so he can regain his new true form strength. Perpetua was a battery for Darkseid. The source wasn't the real source, and the hands were just extras in the stage performance that Darkseid ultimately wrote. But how do we know this for sure, that this Bubbleverse wasn't legit? Well, even Harley Quinn states to Apex Predator Lex Luthor that they are from different Bubbleverses entirely. And we know that after the events of Dark Crisis, the Flash finally had time to go investigate the greater Omniverse, which, by the way, Lex says was fake and not real. Flash goes there and discovers that it's not the greater Omniverse, not a place in the Overvoid, just more bleed space and Orrery of Worlds. Flash is revisiting places that he had already been to in the past. In fact, he meets the original Anti-Monitor from Crisis on Infinite Earths, and this one is not the son of Perpetua. This one is in total shock that the Flash is still alive, because back in the 1980s Crisis on Infinite Earths, this was the last time the real Anti-Monitor saw the Flash, just before he killed him. So it's a total shock to the real Anti-Monitor that the Flash is still breathing. More so, the Flash mentions that sending him back to an antimatter type realm would stop him for a time and shouldn't be a serious thing. Because again, the context of the greater Omniverse was supposed to be the Overvoid. What's more concept deleting than the Overvoid? Well, nothing. It's not the Overvoid. That's the big reveal. The greater Omniverse was all the other worlds not located in the local 52 bubble that Darkseid fabricated and locked off with a fake source wall. Ultimately, all of this was spoiled in a guidebook in late 2021, almost 2 years before Dark Crisis even ended. We learned that the space of the greater Omniverse is just more bleed space. We cannot argue with the Flash revealing that the greater Omniverse above the source wall is not the Overvoid, but more bleed. And we cannot and should not argue with the guide, who laughably spoiled this for us way too early. So there you go. Darkseid fabricated the entire Perpetua history as part of a plot that he himself explained out. It was only him that was missing after the hands reset everything, and then he mysteriously pops back into the greater Omniverse at true form power. Only then to be revealed in both the guide and by the Flash and Lex Luthor that the greater Omniverse was a lie and just more Orrery of Worlds and bleed space. Thanks for watching.